What's up, everyone? Thank you for being here. We're going to start in a few minutes.
Morning.
What's up? What's it, Terrence?
Nick.
Oh, Nick. What's up, Nick? How are you, buddy?
How you doing? I'm good.
I'm good, brother.
Good.
I usually wait a few minutes for people to roll in late, so we'll start here in a second, okay?
All good.
All right. All right, everyone. I'm just putting up my slides real quick. If you see me a little distracted, I'm just allowing a few people to still come in. They trickle in at different times, so I'm doing my best to multitask there. But I will start this out of respect for all my friends who are here on time. So, welcome to the Saturday personal development session with Param. I've met some of you in the flesh and some of you I have not. So let me give you a quick introduction of who I am and why you're doing this morning. So my name is Param. I am, my official role is the Chief Operating Officer at Buckeye Recovery Network. I've been with the company for over 8 years now. I also am a marriage and family therapist. So I do have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I'm also a licensed advanced alcohol and drug counselor. And I'm also in recovery. So we are about 3 weeks away from me taking 13 years clean and sober. You know, if everything goes as planned, June 13th, 2008 is my sobriety date. And hopefully we get there, and that's my commitment at least. So, you know, all that being said, I have the personal experience, I have the professional experience, and I have the passion, as you can tell, to do my best to add a little bit of value to your Saturday, because I know, you know, some of you program Monday through Friday, and Saturdays and Sundays, we kind of just put the foot off the brakes, but maybe that's the time that we actually need to, you know, double down a little bit and see what we can do on a personal level. So these talks are all about personal development. Can they be related to substance abuse and addictions? Absolutely. Can they be related to your life and your goals and what you're trying to, where you're headed in life? Absolutely. Could it even be intended to take like a search within, take a deep dive within and see who you are and what you're all about? Absolutely. So every talk I ever do is always dedicated to the possibility of human transformation. I believe that all human beings, including myself, including all of you guys and girls watching this right now, you can transform who you are, how you live, what you do, where you go in any given moment that you choose to, especially when we don't have drugs and alcohol telling us where to go. It's a lot of us call our drugs of choices. If someone asks you, hey, what's your DOC? What's your drug of choice? You'll say something like alcohol or opiate or cocaine or weed. However, those are not drugs of choices, my friend. Those are drugs of no choices. Whenever you consume those substances, you lose the ability to make choices in life. Today, you're drug free, as far as I know. That means you have the ability to actually choose. Sobriety is the drug of choice, man. I'll tell you that, because you actually get to make choices in life. So they're always dedicated to the possibility of human transformation. This one right here, sometimes I do books, and this happens to be a book week. So there's this book called The 12 Pillars of Success. It has nothing to do with the 12 steps or 12 traditions. It's not even an AA book. For whatever reason, the number 12 also stuck out there, and they chose it to be called The 12 Pillars of Success. So I'm actually going to go over maybe 10 of those, because I won't have time to go through all 12 in this time. But definition of success is, by the way, different for everybody watching this right now. What I might think is successful, you might not think is. What your friends might think is successful, your other friends might not. And society might have a version of success that they think people are supposed to be heading towards, and that might not be it. Some of the most happiest, content human beings I've ever met in the world did not meet the check boxes and the criteria of society's levels of success. Some of the most miserable people I've ever met in my life, some of the ones that rose the corporate ladders and always wanted to do more and more and more and more, those people, you remove them from their work environment, they're just miserable because they over identify with their identity of work. So success is very, very open-ended, but the 12 pillars of success can be applied to whatever version of success you have. So this book, the shortest version of the summary I can give for you, is a story about this guy named Michael. He's a salesman with a wife and kids. Man, this guy's struggling. He's just trying to go from job to job, trying to sell whatever the heck, he happens to be selling at the time. And he's really struggling. He just can't turn the corner. He's always living paycheck to paycheck. He can't turn the corner. He can't maximize his life. And one day he's driving down this road trying to go to a sales call, and his car breaks down, and he freaks the hell out because he's going to be late. He gets out of the car. He starts walking in whatever direction. As he walks down the road, he comes across a bend, and he sees this beautiful house behind these gates just by itself. And he's like, fuck, maybe someone over there can actually help me. He walks up there, and this old man covered in dirt and overalls walks up to him. And this guy's name happens to be Charlie. And he walks up and says, hey, is there anyone here that can help you? He's like, well, I'm just, the guy out here, working on the lawns and working on that stuff. I might know a thing or two about cars. Maybe I can come help you. So Charlie, this old man, walks out of there and goes with Michael, and he finds out, hey, his gas measure was actually broken. Everything's okay. So he walks him back to get some gas. And as they're walking, Michael asks the old man, Charlie, hey, who does this house belong to? Whose house is this? And he says, oh, it's Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis is just a man that, spent his whole life working on how he can be the most successful human being in the world and how he can contribute back. And Michael says, well, Mr. Davis sounds like a really, really interesting man. Maybe, I hope one day I can meet him. He's like, I hope so too. He's like, you know what, Michael, if you're ever down this way again, you want to come back and talk, feel free to come talk. He's like, oh, that's kind of weird, but okay. So Michael goes on his way, gets some gas. A few weeks down the way, he finds out he's kind of close to this house, and he's like, you know what, maybe I'm going to go over there and see if I can get a hold of this guy and see if I can talk to the owner of this big house. And he goes there, and Charlie's there again, the old man, right? And he starts talking to Charlie, and he realizes like Charlie has all this wealth and knowledge, and he's like a really fascinating worker. And Charlie says, you know what? I've been working with Mr. Davis my whole life. If you want to learn some things through Mr. Davis, maybe I can teach him to you, because he's a hard man to get a hold of. And Michael thinks, he's like, I don't know, this guy's working in the lawn and working in the grass and that kind of stuff. I don't know if I want to learn from him. But he's like, hey, he's been around this guy that's this wealthy his whole life. Maybe he knows a few things. So through the process of this book, Michael keeps meeting with the old man, Charlie, and the old man, Charlie, keeps telling him what the pillars of success are. And in front of this magnificent house, there's actually 12 pillars. And he says each one of those pillars represents something that Mr. Davis says is the most important thing in life. So I'm going to share that with you guys. It's pretty dope. And I'll tell you guys how that story ends, because I've done a lot of book recommendations, and 1 out of 100 people have read them. So I'm going to save you that dilemma and just tell you what happens at the end of this. So here we go. The first pillar of success, my friends, is all about personal development. That's actually what these talks are. So the only way things in your life are going to change for you is if you change. Okay, I'm going to say that again one more time in case anybody missed that. The only way your life is going to change is if you change. If you sit around waiting for other people, other situations, other circumstances to change, and then that's going to be the trigger for you to change, you'll be sitting around for a long period of time. Because what if that day never comes? What if he, she, they, it doesn't change? Do you want to know as a therapist? Yeah, I'm a clinician, guys, and I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been sober for 13. You want to know how many tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people I've seen walk by, float by, go by in life, waiting for something to change before they change, and it never happened? So the only way it's going to change is if you change. And how do you change something? Is by changing something you do every day. Every single day, you got to take actions towards the direction of whatever the hell it is you're trying to change. If you don't, you will never change. You might make a little transformation on like a day to week basis, but all of a sudden you'll revert back to what's familiar. That's what all life forms do. They revert back to what's comfortable and familiar. So in order to break through that, you got to do something every day in the direction that you're trying to change. And it's really important because what you put in is what you put out. So if you're sitting around recoveries, sobriety, which by the way is a huge accomplishment for anybody watching this. If you're clean and sober today, I know what it's like. I don't know you, I don't know your story specifically, but I know what it's like the last few days, the last few weeks, the last few months, the last few years of your life. That shit is dark. It's miserable. It's lonely. It's isolated. It's a challenge just to navigate through. The whole goal becomes to get high and to get by. And today you're not living that way. And that's a huge accomplishment. The person watching this right now, to that previous version of yourself, is a dream. You want it to be this version. Now, what are you doing with it? You all want it to get clean and sober. What are you doing with it? What are you doing with this gift of sobriety? So personal development means you got to start changing yourself. In recovery, by the way, getting sober is one of those, but it ain't everything. I say this every week for those of you guys who watch me. Getting sober alone won't accomplish all of your goals and dreams. You want to know why? Because for those of us that struggle with addictions, when we remove the addictions, all of a sudden we become an even playing field with the other 8 billion people in the world. Like, we're just equal with everyone. Now, who grinds and who shines, that's up to you. So the next one I got is total well-being. So your total well-being is 3-dimensional. Always remember this. Western society wants to separate the body and the mind. They want to treat symptoms. They don't want to look at the body. Total well-being is 3-dimensional. It's the mind, it's your body, and it's actually your spirit, or you can call it your soul. It's something that exists within all of us, that you feed it in different ways. It's something that makes you feel good at the beyond level of comprehension thoughts. So what do you do to get that? You got to make sure every morning or every day you do something that hits each of those 3 places. Something for your mind, something for your body, something for your spirit or your soul. If you just wake up and just do things for your mind and neglect the body and the spirit, you will be lopsided, off balance. It's not going to move in the right direction. If you wake up and just focus on your fitness, focus on your health, focus on your body, screw your thoughts, screw your spirit, it's going to become off balance, and vice versa. And make sure that the outside of you is a reflection of the inside of you. And this is heavy stuff for early sobriety, because the main thing that we got to do is just get well. But here's the thing: once you get there, these are the things you need to hear, right? You got to hear these things, and you got to give equal attention to all 3 of them. So total well-being, please. I woke up this morning. I promise you, I did one thing for my mind. Listened to some podcasts, read a few pages. I did something for my body, took care of my physical health. And that could be something as easy as walking around the block for 30 minutes. I'm not saying you got to sign up for any fancy classes. You got a special bicycle in your living room. You don't have to do any group exercise classes. Walk around the block for 30 minutes. Eat something that's got some nutrients in it, right? And then something for your spirit, man, whatever that, however that shows for you. Some people can go through meditation. Some people can go through religious, denominations. Some people can go through working with other people. Some of you did that I Love Costa Mesa thing. Doing stuff for the community is good for the spirit. Helping out the homeless is great for the spirit. Helping out with the elderly and human beings that don't have family members around them is good for the spirit. Helping out children, Big Brother program, Big Sister program is good for the spirit. Those kind of things, when you incorporate all of those in your life, you start to have this total well-being is what we're all looking for, man. We all just want to, I had one of my favorite counselors in the whole world. His name is Ted. I call him Uncle Ted. And he is just he's from East LA. He's from the hood. He's been sober for like 30 years. He was one of my counselors when I got sober, and he had this funniest voice and this funniest kind of the way of talking. He always wore like really cool suits and really nice top hats and walked with a cane. He was one of those. He's like one of my role models. And he used to say, you want to know why I got high? And the whole room would go, why, Uncle Ted? He's like, because I was feeling low. And that was this whole thing. The reason why I got high is because I was feeling low. And here's the thing, man. In sobriety, I don't want to feel low because I'm going to get high. You know what I mean? Like, I want to feel good. So if I want to feel good, what do I got to do? I got to do good. I got to be good. I got to eat good. I got to take care of myself. I got to hang out with people that are good to get that total well-being. You guys got the cat over here over my shoulder just creeping on you guys too. What's up, Moach? You want to say hi to anyone? No? Creepy. I got a dog too. So me and the dog have a better relationship. Okay, let's go here. The gift of relationships is pillar 3. So one of the most factors in becoming successful is the relationships. Remember this, relationships, so whether it's platonic, whether it's romantic, whether it's in recovery, like sober support, are just like gardens. A relationship is like a garden. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes imagination, it takes patience, it takes nurturing, it takes like commitment, it takes investment in order to have this garden bloom. No one is going to come into your life and become your friend, become your sober support network, become your spouse, become your wife, become your child, just because you're related to them by either name or by work or by proximity. That doesn't mean anything. What are you putting into the relationship? How are you tending to your garden of your relationship? That's how it's going to bloom. I've had so many people, I've had parents say, yeah, he's my kid. He already knows I'm his dad. You might be related by blood. You might be related by name, by last name. But when's the last time you guys actually spend quality time together? When's the last time you sat there and shared life lessons and heard what the hell they're going through? When's the last time you did that week over week, month over month, year after year, the way people tend to gardens? And they're like, well, it's been a while. In the beginning I did, but now they got a little older. They're their own person now. At that moment, you lose connection. You can't just tend to a garden in the beginning stages and just say, fuck it for the rest of it. And by the way, this happens to ourselves too. In early recovery, a lot of you start tending to yourself and you start to feel good. And all of a sudden you just let the garden dry out. And you look back at it one day and say, how come it doesn't look and feel the same way it did in the beginning? Get out what you put in, man. You get out what you put in. And if you don't take care of your garden, I'll tell you this, the weeds will take your garden. Weeds will take your garden, man. And it's like, it's insidious. Once they start going, I mean, you've all seen gardens. I mean, this is like, I'm trying to use an analogy that's really basic. They'll come and they'll just take everything you worked for. They'll suck it dry. They'll kill it. They'll suffocate the flowers. They'll suffocate the fruit. I mean, it'll take your garden. So how do you go about a relationship that's screwed up right now? Imagine having a garden that's all burnt. What do you got to do, man? Get to the basics. Get to the basics. You got to get to that soil. You got to get to those roots. You got to start simple with just water, right? Just water it every day. I mean, if it's the right type of garden that needs watering every day, but water it every day. Take care of it every day. Be patient. The driest gardens do develop health again. And it's very important to just use these simple metaphors, whether it's with self or others, because you're going to get what you put in. The next one I got here is achieve your goals. So pillar number 4 says achieve your goals. It says 95% of people don't have goals. And you're wondering like, what the hell? Yeah, I do. I got some goals. Here's the thing. Most people have goals, but you know where they have them? They have them right here. So they have their goals inside their head, and they say, this is what I want to do next week. This is what I want to do next month. This is what I hope to do next year. Anything that's at the level of the mind that doesn't get written down at any given time can get washed up with the other 50,000 thoughts a day that we have. And that's not a random number I share. They say that's how many thoughts a day human beings can have. So when you get stressed out, when you get anxious, when you get angry, and you got some goals inside your head, tell me this honestly, how much are you really focused on those goals when you're pissed out? The answer should be nothing. When you're sad, when you're, jealous, when you're envious, when you're tired, how much are you thinking about your goals that you have inside your mind? Not that much. However, goals, when written down, and by the way, majority of top achievers, high achievers, some people call them millionaires, they have written goals. And I'm not just making that up. They have written goals. I do this book called Think and Grow Rich. I talk about it all the time. Feel free to look at that. One of the steps, it's the 6th step to riches. One of the steps it talks about is having down clear, defined goals that you have for yourself and reading it first thing in the morning to yourself and reading it at the end of the night. Because what that does is it puts your goals into the world, which also puts it into your conscious and your subconscious. So when it's locked in your subconscious, it's kind of like a missile on, have you ever seen those old, Top Gun movies? There's 2 jets going and the guy's trying to shoot from behind and he keeps missing. But all of a sudden, when the target locks on the plane in front of it, no matter what the person does, that missile is going to hit and it's going to blow up the plane. Goals are the same way. Your subconscious and conscious mind, when it locks onto your goals, you wake up and you just walk to the direction of those things unconsciously. So top achievers do that. You got to write it down. When it's in your head, it's just like rattling marbles, man. So please have your goals written. Some people like to put them on a little 3x5 card, carry it with them. I know it sounds gimmicky, but sometimes gimmicky things work. I'm a high school basketball coach. Last night we played a basketball game and we did some gimmicky things that definitely worked. So don't underestimate some of the gimmicky stuff. There's a reason why simple things in life are always effective. The next one I got is the proper use of time. So it's all about time management. Most people major in minor things. So let me say that again. Okay. So time management is very important. Okay. Because why? There's a limited amount of it. No matter who you are, how rich you got, how smart you are, you only have 24 hours in one day. The richest person, the Bill Gates and the Jeff Bezos of the world have 24 hours. The poor individual that's struggling down and out on the streets has 24 hours. No matter how rich and powerful those guys are, they can't make more of it. They can't go to Switzerland and put in some offshore account and get some more time later on down the road. When time ticks away, it ticks away for all of us. It's precious. So how do you manage the precious time you have is one of the pillars of success. However, most people major in minor things. That means they give the majority of their time, energy, effort to things that don't matter, that don't mean shit. What do I mean by that? Is if you go back to the past week of your life and see how much time, energy, and effort you gave to things that 6 months from now, a year from now, are not going to mean anything to your life. That's what I mean by people major in minor things. I've had people over consume themselves with what's happening in sober living with like some random person, right? And it's like, dude, a year from now, you won't, first of all, be here. That person, you won't know where they are. You won't even care. It has zero impact on your life. Instead of focusing on that, focus on why the hell you're here, because a year from now, you're going to be stuck with yourself, right? People, they over exaggerate the smallest things because they major in minor things. So you got to find out what's major in your life. And that's what you focus on, whatever that is. If it's sobriety, if it's your family, if it's your finances, whatever it is, and you go all in on those. If something is not those, let it go. Let it go. I mean, what's the point, really? But you want to know why it is? Sometimes doing the things that are major are overwhelming. They're stressful. We avoided them for a long time. So instead of dealing with them head on, we focus on all the other shit to distract ourselves. We focus on people, places, and things because that's easier than this. However, the avoidance of pain produces more pain. The more you avoid that shit, the more it's going to come back like a boomerang and hit you in the back of the head when you least expect it. So I love this quote here too. It says, we all must suffer from one of two pains. The first one is the pain of discipline, and the second one is the pain of regret. Discipline weighs ounces and regret weighs tons, right? So it's up to you. You got to be disciplined with your time, or else it's going to go by and you're going to regret what you didn't do with it. Discipline only weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. It's your choice, simple choice. The next one I got, it says, surround yourself with the best people. Here's the main questions that you got to ask yourself. So who am I around? What effect are they having on me? What have they got me reading or listening to? Where do they have me going? What do they have me thinking? What do they have me becoming? Then ask yourself the question, am I okay with that? So there's been wise quotes and sayings around for thousands of years. It says, birds of a feather flock together. Show me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are. There's a reason why these things are around. They also say you become the sum of the 5 closest people you hang out with. So think of the 5 people you hang out with the most. You become the average of those people. If you want to level up, average yourself up, find some people that are a little bit more successful. And people always say, well, hey, in my town or my city, I don't have that access to that. You know what? I'm in a place that I actually do have access to that. However, my circle isn't that. So you know what I do? I listen, whether it's audio, whether it's YouTube, whether I watch, I listen and watch to 5 people that are a hell of a lot more intelligent than I am, that have achieved a lot more than I have, that have contributed to the world more than I have, that are making impact on a large scale more than I am. And what I do is I listen to them talk. I listen to them walk. I watch them walk. I see how they think. I see how they spend their time, what their morning routine looks like. And guess what? By doing that over and over and over again, I start to pick up things that they do. I start to talk more like them. I start to walk more like them. I start to do things more like them. And eventually over time, it's not going to happen the first time I watch this. Man, I've been doing this for a while now. You know how many personal development, motivational talks, inspiring talks I've listened to be able to share this stuff with you guys? This just doesn't happen overnight. However, if I continue to put myself in the places to learn, to optimize, to grow, a year from now, I'll be doing this talk for someone, and I'm going to look back to this version of myself and say, damn, that guy had no idea what he was talking about. Look how far I've come from there. Because personal growth is limitless when you surround yourself with people that are always growing, right? And so then when you ask all those questions, so when you're spending time in sober living, if you're spending time with people that you know is just kind of passing time, you're just kicking it, talking about like what it was like back when you were drinking, and you got to do a little bit of that, don't get me wrong, but if that's all you're doing, just know you're not going to, like, that's your cap right there. Like whatever your peers are, that's your cap. So where do you find it? I know some of you guys go to 12-step meetings. There's some meetings we go to right here in Orange County that the men and the women, I mean, usually it's like, men's stags or something like that you guys go to, but these gentlemen that are around, some of them with a lot of time, you'd be surprised when you put yourself out there and let them know, hey, this is who you are, this is where you're from, you're looking to level up, you're looking to get to know people that have been there, done that. There are so many successful human beings in those rooms that you might not know it. And the beauty of programs like AA is the fact that it's the world's greatest referral organization, because once they know your character and they know who you are, man, everybody wants to root for the underdog. Everybody wants to give a second chance to people, man. This is America. That's like the coolest thing that we got, is like people root for the underdog. But you got to put yourself out there. You got to surround yourself with the right people. So surround yourself with the best people. Don't underestimate that one. Be a lifelong learner. It says 90% of millionaires believe in constant and never-ending improvement. Read a book, take a class, listen to a podcast. Most of life's learning begins when formal education ends. So in your space where you are watching this right now, whatever you're learning at Buckeye, whatever you're learning from your counselors, whatever you're learning in treatment, I hope to God that you don't think that that's all you need to stay sober forever. All it is an introduction to developing a foundation and the tools necessary to maintain it. It's kind of like going to gardening school, if you will. I've never used this analogy actually. And you go there and they teach you all about how to garden. They teach you about soil. They teach you about the tools that you need to be able to be effective. They tell you about the different weeds. They tell you about the different hazards. They tell you about, sun. They tell you about all that kind of stuff. And you learn everything and you get a mastery of what it means to garden. Now, when that class ends, when that school, when that curriculum, when that education ends, now it's just you and your garden. If you don't do everything that you learned in that class through that experience on your own, when no one's watching, what's going to happen to your garden, man? And sobriety is the same way. Recovery is the same way. I promise you this. 12, 13 years later, I'm still doing a lot of the shit I did in the beginning. The basic, the simple stuff, I'm still doing it. So you got to be a lifelong learner with everything. I mean, you all know this. For any of you working professionals or people that have had a job for a long time, you know that majority of everything that you learned happened on the job. It didn't happen in school. You learn it as you go. You learn as you go in life, So sobriety is the same way. Recovery is the same way. And sometimes when complex situations come up, when there's an extreme weather thing that you never learned about in class because the gardening, class didn't get that advanced. What do you got to do? You got to go talk to advanced gardeners. I don't know why I'm using so many gardening analogies, but if something happens in your recovery that you have no idea about, and you're just like, hey, I don't think I learned this in treatment. Like I didn't learn about how to deal with this death or this divorce, or I didn't know how to deal with this job loss, or I didn't know how to deal with this pandemic. Who do you go talk to? Talk to people who have been there, done that, can help you, guide you through it. If you don't do that and you do it on your own, there is a chance you'll screw that up. This happened to a lot of people this past year, man. A lot of people didn't reach out when they were going through the pandemic, didn't reach out when they were isolated, lonely, depressed, didn't reach out to people that probably could help them get through it. Left to their own devices, they were overwhelmed and their resources were tapped. They just didn't know how to get through it. So I skipped a couple here. Number 10 is communication brings common ground of understanding. So remember, everything you do in life involves other people, right? And if I've worked with a lot of you, maybe not recently because I don't do individuals and stuff like that, or, rarely any do groups, but I've worked with human beings. And a lot of people say that they have a hard time communicating, right? It's like a common thing. I have a hard time communicating. And that's okay. A lot of people do have a hard time communicating, but what are you doing to improve your communication? Are you still avoiding confrontation? Are you still suppressing your emotions? Are you still minimizing your emotions? Are you still passive, like saying everything's okay, like passive, and then blowing up aggressive? Are you just straight up aggressive? Do you go from 0 to 100? Do you only have two emotions, cool or pissed off? If these are the cases for you and it, like you're aware of it now, you got to start doing something about it. The first step is absolutely say, hey, I suck at communicating. I want to get better. That's the first step, right? And then when you say I want to get better, is what are you going to do to get better? What's your plan? Reach out, ask for help, read some stuff, watch some videos on improving your communication. It has a lot to do with emotion regulation. So you got to deal with your emotions. And eventually over time, you're going to stumble and fall, by the way. If you're a pissed off person, you ain't going to go from being angry Hulk to being, super Serenity Steve or whatever the hell another name is we could call overnight. It's impossible. But can you take 3 steps forward and maybe take 1 step back? Can you make some forward progress before you have that regression? And then when you do, say, hey, I'm going to get right back on it and continue trying. I'm going to continue trying. Anger was one of the things. I mean, a lot of people see me as like this calm, cool, collected, mellow dude. Anger was something I really struggled with because I had a really angry father. And my dad was really, he's a rageaholic, and I didn't know how else to respond to the world besides make my voice go up and get big and get angry and get loud, because that's the only way I could respond. If it wasn't that, I would just suppress, shut down like a child and just go inward and get really sad and cry. It was like, that was either really sad or really angry, So, and alcohol was like the switch to all that, substances is the switch to all that. You can go from one to the other, like instantly. But I got better at it, man. It took a while. I sucked the first few years at it for sure. But eventually it's like, hey, if communication is the most important thing in life that connects me to you and connects you to your loved ones and connects the world to each other, and I suck at that one thing that's connecting everything, then I'm going to probably feel really disconnected in life. I'm going to probably feel really misunderstood. I'm going to feel that I'm not heard, I'm not seen. And we can't go through life like that. You can't go through life like that anymore. Not sober. That's too painful of an experience. So please don't underestimate the value of communication. The next one says being a great leader is pillar number 11. It says the world can always use one more leader, make a world a better place for another human being. Some of you watching this might say, hey man, shit, I got nothing to offer another person. I'm barely figuring out what's going on with my life. I've been in sober living for 2 weeks. I've been in treatment for 2 months. I don't know what I got. What am I supposed to do? Well, I'll tell you this, to the man or woman that's coming to Ohio House today, that's coming to Chadwick House today, that's full of fear, that has maybe left their home for the first time in their life, that is full of guilt and shame. Their parents lost trust in them. That person might be someone very familiar to who you were not too long ago. When that person walks through the doors of Ohio House and Chadwick House, and you walk up to him or her and say, hey, my name is so-and-so, right? My name is so-and-so. Welcome. I've only been here for a month, but let me introduce you to a few people. I've only been here for a few weeks, but hey, I'm starting to feel a little bit better about myself. I don't feel like I'm a piece of shit right now. My parents are trusting me because they're seeing me. I'm trying. Walk them to maybe a couple houses, maybe walk down to the grocery store with them, help them feel comfortable in their surroundings, right? Give them some humanity, give them some love and connection. To that moment right there, you just became the most fierce, fucking powerful leader you've ever been in your life. However, you know what happens when people come in? Most people, they just say, oh, hey, what's up? Nice to meet you. And that's it. And that's such a lost opportunity to take on a leadership role. Every one of you, I don't care what the hell your story is, you could be a leader to the next person that comes in at any given time you choose to. But we're selfish. We think about ourselves. We think about our own, experiences more than we think about others. Nothing wrong with that. If that's where you are today, right now, by the way, that's okay. But this talk is inspired to inspire you to say, hey, maybe I could be that for someone. And the last one, it says to leave a legacy. It talks about life being short. You can't choose how long you live, but you can choose how well you live. So if you're getting clean and sober right now, which I know a lot of you are, what's the point of it? Is it literally just to stop doing drugs and stop drinking? If that's really the case, then I'm telling you this, that when that happens and you'll achieve that goal, you'll abstain from drugs and alcohol. You're going to be sitting down somewhere feeling void, feeling empty, feeling, okay, what's next? What's the point? What's the point of all this? And in that moment, if you don't find out your why, if you don't find out why you're doing this, what you're doing this for, who you're doing this for, what's the bigger picture of this, what's the legacy you're trying to leave behind in this short amount of time that we have on this planet, if you don't figure that out, the drink or the drug is inevitable. You ever wonder why people relapse, man? Because they don't hold on to something that's greater than themselves. They don't see a vision. They don't cast a vision that's so large that alcohol and drugs become so small. If you really catch what I said there, there's some power to that, man. When you look at a world that is so powerful and beautiful, and you're like, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be. This is the impact I want to make. And alcohol becomes so fucking small compared to that. And then you're able to leave this legacy. And it doesn't have to be anything huge, man. I'm telling you, I've shared this with you guys so many times. I went to this place called Country Villa, right? And this is the last thing I have to say. Country Villa was a retirement community for human beings that are at their end of life, Alzheimer's, dementia, really, really just living in a community senior home, if you will, right? Medically monitored. And I was there for school, to be honest with you, I had to do an internship. But then I chose to stay there for a year, right? And I was the director of recreation. So we did like bingo and shuffleboard and we did like, ping pong, wheelchair ping pong, that kind of stuff. But I got to talk to all these human beings about life, what's important, what's their biggest regrets, what are they most proud of, that kind of stuff like that. I'm telling you, like when I was doing that, I did it for a whole year, man, because the experience was so rewarding. When I was going there and these people were looking forward to seeing me or talking to me, or they knew that I'm going to go there and listen to their stories sometimes for the 77th time because of their, mental health. It was cool, man. It was cool to know that I'm contributing something greater than myself. A lot of those people, their kids wouldn't visit, their grandkids wouldn't visit. They had no one. And when you're doing that, like I don't go to that experience, right? And hear all this rich stories and all these like beautiful values and learn about just these awesome, like every person was like a movie. You know what I mean? Every person was like a movie and they can share it for you first person narrative. And it's like fucking dope. But when I was doing that, I wasn't leaving saying, oh, I want to go get loaded right now. I want to go get high. Because it was like something was greater than the bottle. You know, it was like this human connection and stuff like that. So that was the 12. And by the way, the end of this book, just so you guys know, as it goes through and goes through and goes through, Charlie says, hey, Mr. Davis is actually getting kind of sick these days, Michael. And he's not doing that well. He's going through some cancer stuff and this and that. And one day, you know, when they get to the 12th pillar, which is leave a legacy, Michael goes to the house and rings the doorbell for the first time. And this lady comes out and it's, and she walks him into the house, and this house is just magnificent, full of fine art, and it's just really beautiful. And she takes him to the room and sits down, and she says that she's Mr. Davis. You know, she's the wife of the person who passed away. And he's like, hey, where's Charlie? And she says, oh man, he never told you, did he? And he's sitting there in this big study, and he looks behind him, and there's this big picture of Mr. Davis on like a oil canvas painted. And he realizes that Mr. Davis was actually Charlie. And before he passed away, he wrote a letter to him about leaving your legacy. And in that letter, you know, he wrote about the fact that Michael kept coming back, learning all these lessons from this person that was just the gardener. You know, it was just, he didn't know that it was actually the person who was the owner of that house. And it was just really cool. It's a really cool book. It's a really quick read. You know, you could probably read it in a day. It's thin. I would buy it, you know, to be honest with you guys, and highlight it, because it not only applies to your recovery, it applies to your life. So that's what I had for the 12 pillars of success. What I do now, normally, if you guys have been watching me, I kind of shut up now for about 5-10 minutes or however long you guys want to talk. And I give you guys the opportunity to share some takeaways from this experience. So if anybody has any takeaways, I'll stop recording too.